Viking axe!
Hey friends, it's Gabriel with the Last Huntsman channel here, and today I'm going to be doing a review of a loaner tomahawk my twin brother let me borrow. It's the H&B Forge Viking Tomahawk. Now this thing is pretty wicked looking. I mean, that's just pure manliness right there. However, this axe head is pretty big for such a small handle. It almost, to me, seems like it needs to be like a two-handed battle axe more than just a tomahawk. But however, that's what it is. And so we're going to test this thing out and see how well it could work, not only for possible zombie survival, whatever, but even just as around a bush. For the most part, I think this is kind of more of a fun weapon than anything else. However, let's just see how well it works. Okay, so this is not my first H&B Forge Tomahawk that I've messed with, by the way. I've had the Shawnee Tomahawk for quite some, well, that didn't work out so great. I've had the Shawnee Tomahawk for quite some time, and okay, so first order of business, let's see how well this H&B Viking axe here, tomahawk here, does some chopping. Now, like I said, they say this is a tomahawk. I think it's borderline like a war axe than anything else, but let's try this thing out. This dead cedar I've cut down a little while ago. Let's just do some dealing in here. Yeah, this thing has lots of power. I got a couple trees here I'm gonna fell. Probably use them for my shelter anyways. I got a really small one. Let's see how quickly this thing can do this. I find when chopping with the thing, it's almost too much on like your wrist and everything to chop just one-handed way back here. And so I find that it's almost best to try to grab it about mid-length. Here. Let's try something a little bigger. Try this little cedar here. This thing is about 3 inches diameter. This thing has so much power, especially when you use it two-handed. Tree is still stuck up in the air because it's being held on by so many other branches from other trees. I mean, for the size of this thing, it chops very well. So let's see if this thing can do some more bushcrafty type of stuff. As you can tell, everything is just covered with ice. We've been having ice storms lately here in the old state of misery, but I'm going to choke up on this thing pretty high, and the way this thing is made here, you can see it covers your hand completely, but we'll see if we can make some feather sticks. I'm not so sure how great I can do with this. Kinda, I mean, it's almost too steep of a bevel on this to really do any fine task with it, to be totally honest. Some of my other tomahawks I can do this with, but this thing, it's just too steep of a bevel. Like I said, I think this is kind of more of a weapon and fun kind of collector's piece more than I think it's actually a practical tomahawk. I could get some thicker pieces, but doing any fine work on here is pretty hard to do with as steep as that bevel is. Alright, so this thing being this big of an axe head, I gotta do a 10 chop test real quick. I will note that this tree I'm using is a little bouncy, and it has ice on it, so I'm not going to totally discredit this thing, although I still think it's going to do pretty good. Alright, not too bad. Let me try it one more time in a different spot here. 10 more. That was a little better. Trying to focus my shots a little better. But yeah, this thing has a lot of power. However, I think with as much sweep as this blade has, I think it's kind of hard to focus on the main part here. I almost feel that this thing would almost be better if it didn't quite have such a wide blade. This thing, here, I'm just gonna pull it out here just so you can get a size comparison. This thing, this is my Becker BK17. This thing is twice as wide of a blade as even the Becker BK17, so this is a 4-inch blade. So this has like roughly an 8-inch blade on this axe, which is just huge, especially for this short of a tomahawk. I think this thing would benefit much better if it had like a longer handle, like say the cold steel hand axe length or so would be about perfect on this. Alright, something I'm going to try to test out with on this Viking Tomahawk from H&B Forge here is I'm going to try to throw this thing. Now, this is going to be as much of a test for me as it is the axe because I kind of absolutely suck at throwing. So, I'm going to try this thing. I'm hoping with this broad sweeping blade here that somewhere I could stick this thing. Maybe even on one of these ends here. So, let's try this. This thing is pretty hefty though, so I'm gonna have to put a lot of oomph into it to get it to stick. Try it. Well, that was really stupid. Okay, after several times of trying to throw this thing, I continued to fail just miserably. And could that be me? Yeah, it can be. I kind of suck at throwing, to be honest. But, however, I can throw the CRKT Kangi T-Hawk, the full tang model, pretty well. And I could throw the Shawnee Tomahawk from H&B Forge pretty well as well. So, even though I kind of suck, and admittedly so, I think this thing cannot really throw because it's almost too much weight on one end, and it just basically flops around instead of doing the proper tumble to hit on target. So, okay, so something to note about these H&B Forge Tomahawks and all their axes is these things are handmade in the United States, and so I'm pretty sure they're out of Ohio, but I'll annotate it just to make for sure. But as you can tell, these things has hand hammer marks on them. They're 1095 steel. I'm pretty sure these are differentially heat treated from the edge to here's a little softer on the back part of it, but the edge is harder. But these things, unlike a cold steel, these things come out of the box. So first of all, this is just for entertainment. I'm not condoning violence, so YouTube can get their panties out of a bunch. You can say zombies or whatever, or just historical, combat techniques, I suppose. So, been doing some kind of more bushcrafty woods camp task with this thing. However, I think this thing's real calling is it's a Viking axe. So this thing is a weapon. It's not really much of a tool.
Viking axe!
Get the thing out. Alright, I'm gonna choke up on the blade here. Be a little quicker strikes. Something with an axe too that you can do is you can change, even in a defensive scenario, you can change your grip even throughout mid fight, and so you literally can have some standoff and just get full power strikes, or you can choke up and just do little quick punching strikes. I am noticing with this big sweeping blade, with this thing, you can hit and sweep all the way, and so against flesh, it would do a lot of damage. And even if you choke up like this, you could use the half here as a secondary weapon or block. Also, with this bearded horned axe here, I think that's what it's called, you could actually stabs in pretty good actually for an axe, or you could hook, and so you could hook an arm, cut a limb off, or stab pretty effectively with this thing. Actually, let's test this thing. Steel H&B Forge uses pretty good steel. So I think I'm going to wrap this up with the H&B Forge Viking Tomahawk here. My overall impressions of this thing, I really like this thing. This thing is cool. However, with one caveat, I do not think it's exactly the most effective woods tool. I think where this thing really shines is kind of more as like if you're in like historical medieval martial arts, or like just really cool like wall hanger if you're kind of just into Viking stuff, which my twin brother is. So like if you hung it up on your wall with like a shield or something, it does look pretty authentic, to be honest. Like it looks like something that legit would be like held by, you know, medieval Vikings and Dark Age era. So this thing, its cool factor is definitely like 10 out of 10. However, I think for like your camping and woods task and stuff, I just think the bevel on it is a little too broad, and I also think the head is just too big for, about dropped it, the head is just too big for as small as the handle is. I think this thing actually would perform much better if they actually put just like had the same shape but had just a smaller head on it. I think this thing would actually perform much better. Could possibly throw it maybe too. Or if they just put a longer handle on it, like I'd say like a 20 to 22 inch handle on it, kind of make it more like the Viking hand axe size from Cold Steel. I think that would actually make it perform much better. Either one of those solutions, I think. I personally think overall though, for it being a tomahawk, I think it would be just cooler to have a smaller head on it. However, that doesn't take away from it being cool. And this thing, would actually make a pretty effective weapon as just sheer raw power, I suppose. But with all that being said, be prepared, both physically and spiritually. God bless, and carry on.